So, what's been happening in the news? God, same old nonsense, different day, more misrepresentations. I would have talked about the Covington Catholic schoolboy incident, but has the time passed? I don't know. It just seems silly to me that people actually take what the mainstream legacy media outlets were saying about that seriously. And I'm even more surprised that people aren't burning down radio stations in response, because this is an attack on our people. This is an attack on the integrity of our nations. This is an attack on our culture. This is very serious, and people need to start treating it with more severity. I'm sure you've all heard of the War of the Worlds radio broadcast that was, I believe, George Orwell. Let me just double check that. Yeah, the George Orwell radio broadcast, where in, I believe, New York City, where they broadcasted on local radio that there was an alien invasion happening, and they very carefully neglected to say that it was only a theatrical performance for the purpose of entertainment. Or else maybe they did give that caveat, but it was like hidden at the start of the performance. And anyway, like, nobody really did anything about that except hide in their basement for a couple of days because they thought there was an actual alien invasion. But the same thought experiment, social experiment, was also tried in South America around the same time. And you know what the South Americans did? They went and they burned down the local radio station because, well, you shouldn't be allowed to fuck with people's heads to the extent that they think that an alien invasion is happening and the world is ending. Because, well, that's essentially what that broadcast amounted to. If we're being honest about it, if we're being serious about it, that was a psychological operation meant to deceive people. And I assume there were plenty of people studying and analyzing the reactions of the population to which the broadcast was made subsequently. And it's all like, all this stuff, all these stories are tests, I feel, and it's just pushing us to see what we will put up with. And here in the West, we seem to be willing to put up with anything once we can earn a wage, once we have enough to get by, once we have our level of comfort that we've been so accustomed to. We have become cowards as a result of our levels of comfort. And that is really pathetic. I know the people I'm speaking with now are not the sort of people who are going silently into their own good night. But out of a nation of how many million natives, how many people are really actually trying to effect change such that our country is not overrun, so that our culture is not taken over and diluted to the extent that it is essentially being destroyed? How many people? Not a whole lot. And those that are, well, where are you? Like, what are you doing? Why are you so quiet? Why are you so unwilling to connect? We need to unify to be able to affect change on this country. And as far as we are doubting ourselves, and as far as we allow the mainstream narratives that are played over the radio and the television and scripted out in our newspapers every day, as long as we allow that to happen and go unopposed, then so we shall be prisoners. So we shall be ruled. So we shall be subject to the will of others, and not just that, nefarious others. Because we know, a lot of us know, that there is a lot happening that is, well, it's not okay. It's not okay what is happening to our country. We are being replaced. We are being shamed just for being ourselves. We are almost being shamed for being white. We are having guilt heaped upon us because we are natives in our own homeland, which is being taken over. And if we oppose it, we are demonized. This is beyond appalling. And we need to stand up against that. And we need to revolt, because the current situation is revolting. And, well, if us peasants do not revolt in response to the revolting situation, then we are just allowing ourselves to be shackled further and further, intellectually, societally, emotionally, however you want to conceive of that metaphor. We are being imprisoned more and more every day in cells or prisons of ideas and narratives, and the disallowance of other ideas and narratives. So you're like guided down a corridor of like safe thought, safe speech, and the walls on either side are what you're not allowed to say. But although the corridor seems concrete, although the way laid out before us seems to be the only way, the conceptual walls in our intellectual prison are not so concrete. If you go over to them and rap on them hard enough, they crumble, okay? And all it takes is an inquisitive mind to go over and boom, 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 rap on those prison walls. And you will see, if you investigate with enough force, that they all come crumbling down around us. And the corridor that we're supposed to be walking down intellectually, ideologically, however you want to conceive of it, that seems so much like it is the only way. It is not the only way. In fact, as soon as the walls begin to crumble under our clenched fists, the more clear that we see that the corridor we are being led down is toward a gas chamber. A gas chamber for our culture, because our culture has become a death camp for our own culture. And that's a strange notion to think. Before, it was that Irish culture was about art, about poetry, about communicating effectively, about cracking jokes, about having a good time, having a bit of crack, having some beers with your friends, having some booze, having a Guinness, having a Murphy's, having a bit of banter with no holds barred, no limits to what we were allowed to say or not say. I remember when I was growing up that like every opportunity for a joke was taken. It wasn't that everyone was afraid or scared to make a joke about one thing or another because, you're not allowed to make jokes about Kerry people because then you're prejudiced if you're not a Kerry man. You know, when I was growing up as a Corkonian, every second joke I heard was about Kerry people and their inferiority, and they're just stupid jokes, but they were about the cultural differences that defined us, that made us unique, and that made us unlike each other. And can you imagine nowadays, you know, instead of having a Kerry man joke, having an African man joke that was in any way condescending or mocking of Africans? You know, like literally you would be charged with a thought crime and fucking given an exorbitant fine or put in prison or publicly shamed that you lose your job and that you no longer have any friends after you're fucking outed as a teller of forbidden jokes. I mean, When I was growing up, every fucking joke I heard was like Paddy the Englishman, Paddy the Irishman, Paddy the Scotsman. It was about Kerrymen if you were Irish, or sorry, it was about Kerrymen if you were from Cork. It was about Dubs if you were from Kerry. It was about Cork people if you were from Dublin. You know, and they were all the same jokes, and they were interchangeable sometimes. And it was just people fucking having a jest with each other, people poking fun at each other. And guess what? It was okay, because it wasn't racism, it wasn't prejudice, it was making light of the fact that we notice differences between each other and want to condescend in a harmless, playful way and try to elevate ourselves in an ironic, jokey sort of way, so we could like feign superiority, but not seriously. It's not, you know, oh yeah, Corkonian supremacism. That's what was the root of all those Kerryman jokes. It was that the Corkonians are bigoted and they're prejudiced against Kerry people, and really, if they got the opportunity, I think they'd be sending them off to death camps in droves, and they'd want to eliminate the Kerry people off the face of the island. No, there was no Corkonian neo-Nazi bullshit. It was all about kidding around and having a good time and making light of our differences, and it was okay. You know what I mean? It brought us together within our communities. It brought us together between communities. And it was all in good fun. But now you can't joke about where somebody else is from. You can't joke about anybody else's ethnicity. You can't even talk about it without putting yourself in danger, without making yourself a target for all the petty weasels that surround you, who are just waiting for you to say the wrong thing so they can mess up your status, your rep, and so elevate themselves. You see how backwards it is? Before, we were saying things ourselves, we knew that we're stupid, to make a joke, to like create some sort of harmony between each other. But now it's that you have to watch every word you say, because if you say the wrong thing, someone else will try to make a fool out of you, but deadly seriously, to the extent that it can potentially ruin your life. I mean, things have changed so much in such a short period of time, and we need to be aware of that, and we need to start talking about this stuff, and we need to maybe start fucking burning down radio stations who are propagandizing us. And hey, I'm kidding, but I'm just thinking back of the War of the Worlds played to the South Americans, and how they went to the radio station like, you motherfuckers lied to us, you're gonna pay. Boom, petrol bomb in the radio station. Boom, more petrol bombs in the radio station. Oh look, it's on fire. Oh good, those liars won't be able to broadcast their lies into the homes of the nation anymore. Good, fucking good. Seriously, if I was one of those people, I'd have been part of the pitchfork wielding mob. Just like as time rolls on here, and I'm more and more disenchanted with the state of Irish media and how disgustingly repressive and anti-Irish it is, I want to destroy Radio Telefíséar and the fucking government propaganda arm of the media in this country. The media in this country is sold out to the neoliberal globalist agenda, and it is appalling, and we need to start shutting these radio stations down and creating our own alternative platforms so that we have a chance of waging the information war, let alone winning, obviously, but we don't even have the means to wage the info war at the moment. So we need to get serious, and we need to start creating alternatives to the mainstream. We need to start speaking our minds openly every opportunity we get, and we need to start creating alternative media platforms so that we can be real competition for the sold out bullshit legacy media that is leading the country of Ireland to its own demise. So, people of Ireland, people of Europe, people of the world, it is time to start taking things seriously, and it is time to start acting. So, here I am, Let me know if you give a shit too, because I certainly do, and I want to know if others out there feel similarly. So let's take our stand. Let's begin to make things happen, and let's change the world to how we know it should be. Because how things are right now, it's not right. If you appreciate what I'm doing and the content I'm creating, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the little bell thing, donate, and stay tuned. There's a lot more on the way.